When I decided to become a YouTuber, I knew that I was going to get asked a lot of questions. However, I wasn't quite braced for just how often I'd be asked the same question time and again. Now, some of them are quite easy to answer. For example, James, where's your Celica? It's off being restored, the same place that it's been for about a year now. Others are not so easy. James, what's the best car you've ever driven? To that I usually say Jaguar XJ220, because it'll make people go, ooh, and hopefully they won't actually have driven one to be able to argue with me. But there's one question I get asked very frequently, in fact every single time that I do a live stream, that I can answer with complete ease. James, what's the one car that you regret selling? It's this, a 2007 BMW 130i. In fact, this precise car. Now, the story of how this car came to be on my driveway is one of a happy coincidence, really. It was winter time and I owned my track-prepped E92 M3 and a 996 C4S. The 911 sold just over a week before Christmas and I thought, yay, great, I've got some money. And then I thought, oh damn, I don't have any cars except a 625 horsepower supercharged M3 on slicks, and it's practically Christmas. I need some transport fast. Now, as it happens, 2 weeks earlier at a track day at Brands Hatch, a subscriber had come up to me and shown me his new car. He had also bought a 130 and I'd completely forgotten about this little gem. Now, if you don't know, the recipe's quite simple. It is a 1 Series, but with the 3-litre naturally aspirated BMW straight 6 in it. They're available fairly cheaply. They're pretty cool cars, fairly rare because they didn't sell very well, and generally quite reliable, and they do make a lovely noise. So I thought, that's perfect. That'll get me through the winter absolutely nicely. Now, what I really wanted at the time was a Celica GT4, my dream car. However, I scoured the classifieds and there wasn't a single one anywhere in the country that I could find that I liked. So I decided instead to go and buy one of these as a nice daily until I could find my perfect Celica. I had a few basic requirements. I wanted 3-door, and preferably I didn't want it in silver or white. It had to be manual, and that was just about it. Nice stereo would have been a bonus. I had a look through the classifieds and there were a few going up for sale, one of which had the full Birds kit, which I still very much like the sound of, but was too much money. And then I saw this. It's got a really high spec. I spoke with the seller. It had a load of miles on it, but I've had high mileage BMWs before and never really had any issues. I know people in the comments will argue as to how lucky maybe I've been on that one, but I like them nonetheless. And I thought, yep, this is the perfect car for me. So I did a deal and went off to collect it with my buddy Michael. The car served me very well. I quickly fell back in love with the buttery smooth BMW straight 6. The car actually handled pretty okay as long as you weren't pushing it too hard. It was really quite luxurious for an entry-level car on the inside, and it did the job of winter daily extremely well. So much so that my buddy Mike decided that he wanted one for himself as well. And we started looking for one, only to discover that what I'd bought here was actually something of a peach. We even went and looked at another 1 Series up for the same money as I'd paid for this one, and it was a complete dog. He started saying to me if ever I wanted to sell this one, he'd happily buy it from me. And then disaster struck, because I saw a Celica in the classifieds that I actually wanted to buy. The car had genuinely grown on me. In fact, even the Le Mans blue paintwork, which at first I was totally indifferent to, started to look really good, especially after my friend Stuart gave it a thorough clean. However, I really wanted that Celica, and I thought, well, this is just a 1 Series, but I couldn't afford to have them both, especially not if I wanted to have some fun and do some interesting stuff with the Celica. So I spoke to Michael and said, would you buy it off me? He said, yes, absolutely, more than happy to. I basically asked him to pay what I paid for this car plus what I'd spent on it, and he took it off my hands. And I instantly regret it. The Celica turned out to need quite a bit more work than I had originally hoped, so I then bought myself a cheap Saab as a runabout, paying as much for that as I had for this, and I hated pretty much every minute in that car. I replaced that with a Mercedes S-Class, which was actually pretty good to me for a cheap old barge, but cost quite a bit of money. Then I replaced that with my 7 Series, which did pretty much the same thing, albeit being very spectacular in the process and having a lovely creamy smooth V12. But every single time I changed car and bought a new daily, I couldn't help but think about the little 130. Every time I looked for a new car, I would scour the classifieds to see if I could find this car's twin. And the fact is that with only a few hundred of these ever made, the chances of me finding that car and it being at the right price were looking slimmer and slimmer every day. Fortunately though, Michael is a good friend. Found out not too long ago that he was selling this and I begged him to let me have it. Now, it took me a lot longer than I'd hoped to get the money together, but he was a good egg and waited for me. And so I am pleased to say that this, once again, is my BMW 130i. And I am so glad it's back on the driveway. It is not going anywhere near as easily as last time, I can tell you. I already have some big plans for it, but for now, I'm just gonna drive it, enjoy it. There's a few little things I've noticed that do need rectifying, but mostly it's gonna be my faithful daily driver until next spring. With autumn practically here, the S2000 is soon going to be taken off the road. Now, don't worry, not for too long. We're going to begin the long-awaited upgrades for it. I've already bought all the parts. They've been sat in a warehouse for 6 months waiting for me to collect them. So in a couple of weeks, with the 1 Series, I'm going to go and do that, and then that process is going to begin. The 7 Series is going to get sold, and then in the spring, when the weather gets nicer again, the S2000 is going to become the daily once more, and this is going to get some TLC. And I do intend on paying the good guys at Birds a visit, because this is fun, but it could be better. So there you go, that's my tale of motoring regret. What's yours? What's the one that got away, and did you ever find it again? Perhaps you did and it was actually nowhere near as good as you remembered. Please do let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you all for the next one. Bye bye.